What's up, y'all? Welcome to the channel. This is your boy Amit, and today we are looking at, can non-coders like me build a complex app? I'm talking about web apps using Claude Code. I don't know how to code, but if you watch my previous video, I walked you through Claude 101. Today we are taking a step further, and I'm going to try my best to build a finance app for myself and my family. So let's get started. In my last video, Claude 101, I did all of the programming using a IDE, which was Cursor. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. I recently learned that, so don't worry, this is not going to be that hard. For this one, I am going to try to code right inside the browser within Claude's app. So I'm on their web app, and in here, I have my GitHub connected. And how I got here is I went to claude.ai/code, and then you can just create a new session. I'm in a new session, and here you can see my Git test repo is connected. And then within that, I want to connect the one called finance app. Now, if this is your first time doing it, then you likely won't have any GitHub repos in here. So you can go to GitHub and it's free to create an account. Go to repositories and click new, and you can click here, create your new repository. I would recommend to keep it public so no one else can see it except for you. So we have a repository created, which is my finance app, and it is completely empty. So if I go into issues, there's going to be nothing. Pull requests, there's going to be nothing. This is a blank slate. And to show you what some of the other repositories look like, if I go to this one, for example, you can see that this has a bunch of code in here, and I have committed that code 27 times, which means I've updated that code through Claude 27 different times. So let's go back to Claude Code and start building our finance app. And I'm going to give it a prompt just to have it understand what I'm trying to build. So I'm going to choose my model, which is Opus 4.6. Before we begin, let's go look at usage. I'm going to refresh this. So in our current session, we are at 6% usage. Let's see if we can get this app to build and what kind of usage we're going to crank through while trying to build this. All right, I have my super lengthy prompt in here. Quick tip here. I have heard of Whisperflow, and I actually use something called Voice Ink. So definitely check out Voice Ink. It is pretty cool, and it is a lifetime deal. So you can check that out. Or if you want a completely free voice to text software, check out handy.computer. Free to use and works on Windows and Mac. So we're back to Claude. We have selected our GitHub repo, which is the finance app. We are going to choose this as leave the cloud environment at default, leave this at Opus 4.6 and hit send. I'm not going to go and hawk the usage every single prompt that I do, but we'll continuously check into the usage to see how much this app is consuming. So the concept of the app while Claude does its thinking is that I would like to track all my household expenses, my income, what credit card debt I have, what's my upcoming bills, whether that's my car payments, my mortgage, any monthly bills that I'm paying, which does not include SaaS subscriptions because that would be a sad amount that I don't want to see. But that's the idea, is to see if Claude can build that using our prompts. All right, so while we wait, what Claude is doing is it's going through my GitHub. It figured out, okay, the finance repo has an empty branch. Let me build the app there. It'll use a clean React plus TypeScript setup with a modern UI. Then it's going and doing its thing. So far, it hasn't asked me any questions, but just like I did previously, in Cursor, I'm expecting that it will give me a final plan before it goes and executes the plan. Maybe that's going to happen, maybe not. All right, so far, looks like it's just off to building. So now it's creating pages in parallel, it's creating page components, it's creating type definitions, context, more pages. It's just going to go and build the app. So this is going to be an interesting build because one-shot apps are traditionally not the greatest, but let's see how far we can get with this. So I'm going to pause the video, wait for the next checkpoint, and we will resume. So I got the message from Claude that it's all done. Here's what I've built for your finance tracker app. Before we continue this, I want to emphasize that this is why you want to be doing this in an IDE, because here Claude did not ask me any questions. I don't know how to even go into plan mode on this web UI for coding, but you have more control when you're doing this in the IDE. You can invoke plugins, you can put in your brand assets, you can chat or put in a claude.md file. And yeah, you can do all of that here too, but I don't know how to call for plugins, and I also don't know how to go into plan mode. And I'm sure if I tinker around enough, I'll figure it out. With that, what I want to do is continue with this. So it says it's all done. This is ready now. It's pushed to my GitHub repo and looks like also right here. If it's pushed right here, that means it's local. I should be able to test this on my local server. So I don't know how to do that. Let's go ahead and ask Claude that question. How do I test this on my local server? And you can absolutely change the model when you're asking these questions, but I'm just trying to save time here. Before we go and run this, the other thing that I want to point out is the amount of lines of code that it has written. You can see that these are the codes that it has written. It's written about 5,714 lines of code, and you can go here and look at all that code. So it's saying this starts, if I run this npm dev, it'll start this local host, and then it'll open the URL. So let's go and start it. Make sure you're in the home user finance directory and have dependencies installed. And once that's done, we should be able to do it. So let's go to that directory. All right. So I went back and forth with Claude, with Gemini. And after all of that, because we haven't built this using my terminal or my IDE, none of this exists on my local drive. So here's all my Claude projects. You can see there's the finance dash app. But if I go to inside the project, it's empty. Compared to if I go to this one, you can see there's a bunch of files here. So what I did instead is I went into Vercel. I asked Claude to deploy it to Vercel. It didn't understand it. So I went to Vercel. You can create a free account there. And when you create a free account, you can just go to projects. You will need to connect your GitHub with your Vercel account. And what you want to do is once you connect your GitHub with your Vercel.com account, both free, you're going to go click add new project. And when you add new project, you will see all your projects here. So here's our finance app that's sitting inside of GitHub, and we want to import this from GitHub. So you're going to click the import button. And then you can just let it pick the URL, pick the project, and then it's currently on this VITE preset. So I'm not going to change anything here. I'm just going to hit deploy. So this will deploy the project that Claude just created for us. And Claude was using GitHub as a repository to update all that code. So we have the code sitting in GitHub, but GitHub does not have a UI for us to interact with this app. Hence, we need something like Vercel. Now, Vercel is live and it says continue to dashboard. So I actually have two of these, and what I can do is delete one of them. So let me just go delete this one. All right, now we should have just the one finance app so we're not confused, and all the changes should go to this one. All right, so now let's go and deploy it. This is what your project page will look like. You can also connect a custom domain here. So I just have to click this link. But before I do, you can see that this was created by Claude, and you can see the source is the Claude GitHub repository, which is this one right here. And since this repo was private, no one else can see this except for you. So let's open our finance app. And this is what it looks like out of the box. This is my first take at it. This was a one-shot web app. Now what we can do is we can start playing with it and see if this is working according to our liking or if we need to change something. So we can go to credit cards. I can see there are no cards here. So let's just add a card. All right. And as I am doing this, I'm already noticing things that I need to change. So first is I don't need the last 4 digits of the credit card when I'm adding a credit card to my profile. So I'll ask Claude to remove that. Let's give this card a color and we'll say auto pay is enabled. Now, one thing I would like to see, and maybe once I hit save, this will show up, is what's my credit utilization for this credit card? So we got to remove the last 4 digits and we got to add credit utilization. Let's add this card. I guess the last 4 digits are required. So that's the other thing. We need to indicate which fields are required and which are not. So let's add that. All right, here's our utilization. So that automatically gets added once I import a card. Speaking of imports, it would also be cool to have a CSV import so I can easily bring in all my expenses from my current Google Sheet and I don't have to recreate the wheel. So now we have to do remove the 4 digits, show required fields, provide users to do a import, and then the utilization piece is already taken care of. So let's go ahead and make those changes. All right, I'm testing the app and so far I'm liking it. When I add a credit card, it should show me the required fields and optional fields. So let's put a red asterisk next to required fields. Also, I would like to remove the 4 digit number for the credit card. So let's get rid of that. Can we provide users with a searchable pick list and import all known American credit cards into a database where they can search from? That way they don't have to type in their credit card name. And finally, I would like to add an import functionality. That way my current Excel or Google Sheet file can be imported, which already has all my SaaS subscriptions, my expenses, and my income. All right, so as you can see, we are now interacting with the code base. We have our 2 repos here, and here's my updated command. So now that I have said that I want to remove this 4 digit number, you will see that currently both of these are 0. That should go up. That means there was a negative impact that we are making by removing some of those lines of code. So now again, Claude's going to go do its thing. And while it's doing that, let's continue to play with the app to see what other changes do we need. All right, so we added that card. Let me go ahead and add a couple of more cards so we have somewhat of a real data to play with. Okay, so I've added a bunch of things, tried to fill as much as possible. And what I haven't found yet is how the heck do I add my income? But I've added a bunch of credit cards. So there are 3 credit cards. Among those 3, I have $109,000 credit limit. Yeah, I wish. And here's my total debt and my utilization. So that's awesome. Here's my monthly bills. So I have mortgage that I'm paying. I added a water bill that's due on the 16th. And it's automatically made it in red, which is pretty cool because it's saying that it's 4 days away. So I'm going to make this red so you know that, hey, this is coming up. Now, still don't know how to add my income. So that's another thing that we need to prompt it. Then we have our subscriptions. What's cool about the subscription, and I didn't prompt this at all, is I can pause an active subscription or unpause it, and it shows me the monthly cost, the sad yearly cost, and then also when I go to add it, I can choose categories that it automatically added in here. So let's say AI tool, cloud, $1,000 a month. Please take my money. It's totally worth it. That's it, $1,000 a month, $100 a month. Then I've added a 401k investment. You can see this is what the investment looks like. I can put my cost basis. So what was my original investment and then what's my current value, and it'll show you the gain loss. All of this Claude has done on its own. I have not given it the parameters that this is exactly what I want. I gave it kind of like the broad brush strokes and this is what I got. So I also added my savings, any loans, and then trips. Now, the other thing is on the dashboard, it's showing you all of that, which is pretty cool. It's showing you the monthly outflow, but it's not showing me where to add the income. So what we need to do is go back and ask Claude to do that. Now, before we do, looks like the build was successful. So I need to go back, go to deployments, and you can see that there was a deployment a minute ago. So how this works is, since we are working on the cloud version, every change that I make automatically gets added to GitHub, and GitHub automatically deploys it to Vercel now that the two are connected. So all I need to do here is most likely just hit refresh. And now if we go to add a credit card, all right, we can see the text type box that we had asked for, and also what the required fields look like. So let's just add an Amazon store card. Actually, I already have that. So we have, what do we have so far? We have Amazon, Amex, and Chase Sapphire. Let's add Capital One. All right, Capital One Venture X. All right, so we have added the cards. Now, as I'm adding them, what I'm realizing is these cards are too big. Maybe I also want a table view. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this and add it to Claude. On the credit card page, the cards are too big. Let's give the users an option, view them in a table view versus the card view. Also, I don't see a spot to add my income to show that monthly cash flow coming in. I can see what the monthly cash flow going out is. Also, let's implement a scenario based tracker where I can tell the system that my goal is to save X amount of money by my retirement age, and it'll tell me how much do I need if my investments are growing at X or Y rate. For the trips tab, I would like AI to tell me how much money I need to save once I add my goal amount that I'm going to need for my upcoming trip. Let's also add another spot where I can add emergency fund and how much money do I have in my emergency fund. Again, Claude's going to go do its thing, and then that new updated app will be ready for us to test. And you can see now there's 12 lines. Earlier it was 0. Now it's showing -12, which means Claude removed 12 lines from the code, and that was for the 4-digit card number. What I don't like, or maybe an enhancement, would be that when I type in a credit card name, it automatically pulls in that credit card logo or image, so I can visually see all the credit cards that I have that I owe every single month. So while Claude is working on these updates, let's go and see how we are doing on our usage. And we started with 9%. Right now we are at 29% usage for the current session that resets every 5 hours. And if you're worried about usage, you can always add extra usage. I'm on the $100 plan. So if I start hitting my limits on my $100 a month plan, I can up it to the $200 a month plan, which gives you double the limits. And from what I've heard, is people are spending 1 billion tokens and not hitting their limits. So it is a very generous $200 max plan, and you can technically cancel every single subscription after that. And when I say every single subscription, I'm talking about your ChatGPT subscription, your Perplexity subscription. We all have our favorites. So if Claude Code is something that you can see yourself using and also use Claude in your regular day-to-day chats, then why not just go all in on that one tool? All right, so while we were talking about usage and talking about spending more money on AI tools, here's what's happened so far. And again, this is all from a non-developer like me. I can't even imagine the damage real developers can do, because there are things that I just don't know. And the AI is only going to go key off of my prompts. So if I knew a developer's language, then of course it'll be more helpful. But you can always chat with a cheaper model, ask it to create a developer's job description, and then put that job description in a claude.md markdown file and upload it to your terminal. And I can show you in a minute how to do that. So it says that we now have the card view, we have income tracking on the income page, we have retirement planner page, we have trip saving recommendations, and the emergency fund page. So let's go and refresh, because now this should have already deployed, and you can see this is deployed. Now what's happening is post that deployments, it's not finding the bills page, but I'm just going to go to the regular finance app. Maybe bills got replaced with something else, but I also have the import button here. It says drag and drop, and we should be able to get an import file. So let's go and create that import file in our regular chat app. Create a CSV for me with dummy data of what a household expense tracker looks like with monthly bills, credit card bills, car payments, loan payments, etc., etc. All right, so while we get that dummy data created to test out our import functionality, let's go see what else is in here. All right, so we have our retirement. I'm going to say retirement at the age of 65, currently 43. Let's say I want 2.5 million. Okay, I cannot type that. So and we're currently at 25,000. So we are 22 years to retirement and our status is behind. We are way behind. So it says projected value. If I'm currently contributing 5%, $500 a month at 7% annual rate, I will have $450,000 by 65 to reach my goal. I need to save $3,816 a month. That's this much money more. So it's doing all this complex math, which is pretty cool. And then here's the scenario comparison on how much I would have in my account in retirement if I was to up my monthly contribution. So that's pretty cool. Now let's go to trips and delete this, add a trip again. All right, so I added the trip and it's still saying 0 needed. Actually, I think I might have messed it up here. I added an extra 0. Okay, here we go. So we have saved 10%. You still need $9,000 with 113 days to go to reach your goal. Save $560 a week or $1,125 every 2 weeks or $3,000 a month to be able to fly on July 3rd. Cool. So that's already been implemented. Now let's go to loans. There was nothing here. I think we're good. Emergency fund. All right, I've added that. I have $25,000 in emergency fund. It says your monthly expenses are $3,000. Your emergency fund covers you for 8.3 months of expenses. You have a healthy emergency fund of 6+ months recommended. Perfect. Savings, we are good. Okay, looks like everything is good so far. And ooh, look at that. We can see table view or we can see card view. And when we add a card, everything else should be the same. It looks like it's pulled in the cards, but I wonder if it was able to pull in the credit card image. So it's not pulling in the credit card image, and I can't remember if that's something I had asked it to do. Okay, I did not ask it to do that, so that's fine. And then finally, we have our income section. Yay. And I can see under income, I have a bunch of options here. So source name, full-time job. I can say salaries and wages. And let's say I get paid bi-weekly, $5,000. Perfect. Then let's add affiliate commissions and let's just call this side hustle. I will say $1,200 we get a month. And then let's also add YouTube income. Who am I kidding? It's $0. All right. So we have our monthly net income based on what I've already input in here. What I'm not seeing is my payment date. So when do I get paid? Even if it's bi-weekly, I want to add my paycheck dates. So that's the other thing. And then other than that, I think this is in a good condition. I would like the dashboard to have a better UI. It should be a gradient color scheme with modern UI components, and I should be able to play with different scenarios in that on that home dashboard. Again, those are some of the fancy things that you can do, but you can see that within 30 minutes, we have built a fully functional web app, and we have a lot to do here. Like I want to add user permissions. I want to add my wife so she can also look at this and have a profile section where we can both go and set permissions and then eventually get our kids into this and they can see their little emergency funds and stuff. All right, now before we leave, I had mentioned that I will show you how you can do this by creating a Claude.md file. So what we're going to do here is, we actually did not test the import functionality. So let's do that as well. So we can do this household tracker and let's see if our import functionality works. So we will go ahead and import that in here. And it's asking us to map the columns, which is pretty cool. So name should be my guess is the category is the name and then amount goes to amount. That's fine. So category is housing, mortgage, description. I guess the description would be the name. Yeah, let's skip the billing cycle and import 40 rows as it says 40 rows as SaaS subscriptions. So SaaS subscriptions, monthly bills, income savings. I want to put it under monthly bills. Description, amount, category, due date, notes. Okay, perfect. Successfully imported 40 monthly bills, expenses, records. So here we go. Okay, that was actually pretty cool and it worked right away. So if you have an existing Excel file, Google Sheet, you can easily dump that in here. What I want to do now is go here and say, I would like to hire a developer for building a finance app. Write me a very comprehensive developer role that can do both front end and back end development. And why we're doing this is because you can then take this and create your own Claude.md file and just upload this job description in there. So for that, I'm actually going to switch over to Cursor to show you how you do that. So we have Cursor here and we have the finance app. I'm going to say show terminal. And within this terminal, we will invoke Claude. Now, since Claude is already installed on my Mac, I don't need to do anything other than just type Claude, invoke it, and now it's ready. Now you can see on the left side, there's only 2 files here. So once Claude has done writing this job description down, we can export that from here, from the web UI, and import it into the files here, and then ask it to reference that as it starts building this finance app. So this would be, if you're building the finance app again from scratch, you can again either do it in the IDE or on the web UI and just reference that file. I like the IDE because you can see that entire file structure. Otherwise, you have to go to GitHub to see it, or you have to go back into the UI to see that file structure in here. So that's why I like to do it in the IDE itself. All right, so we have our senior full stack engineer JD. I'm going to download this and put it in the finance app folder, and we'll just call it .md for markdown. Now, when we go into the IDE, you can see that here is the markdown already showing in here because I added in that same folder. And then I would give it the exact same prompt that I did in the web version. Now, if you wanted to add the CSV in here as well, which had that dummy data that we downloaded earlier, I can open that in my Finder and simply drag and drop it onto this conversation. And I can say, reference this expense tracker that I already have to figure out what you need to do to build this dashboard for my personal finance app. Again, we're doing the exact same thing, but instead, here we are using the IDE and the command line interface, which is not as easy to use for some people, but I definitely would recommend it. Get used to it because this is where the future is headed. And then here it's going to ask you a bunch of questions. I just keep hitting yes. Now, before we end, what I want to do is go back, look at our usage and see how many tokens we have burned. Let's go to settings. And we are at a 31% usage for my plan, which resets in 2 hours and 22 minutes. And folks, that's a wrap on how you can use Claude Code, whether you're using it on the web interface or in your command line. Use it, create beautiful things, and until next time, keep prompting.